Hello and welcome to a video presentation about the long transit of Saturn in Pisces from 2023 to 2026. I've looked quite closely into this transit for themes of how Saturn in Pisces has played out in the past, as well as some useful potentials for the next 2 or 3 years. And I've also prepared a short presentation just to kind of highlight things at the beginning before, while I look at things in more depth. So the overall theme, I would say, is a kind of reformation of reality. I choose reformation because it makes me, well, it reminds me of the Christian religion in the 1600s, when Britain left the Catholic Church and dreamed up a whole new kind of belief system for looking at the reality. And I think Pisces is obviously closely connected to religions, but this way of looking at belief systems and how they are reformed when Saturn is in Pisces is prevalent in a whole variety of contexts. One of the things I can see is how ways of having daydreams are anchored. Like in the 1840s, there's the development of the novels of Charles Dickens in particular, moving from magazines to books and starting a whole new way of kind of telling people this is how life is. This is a daydream, shared kind of crystallized daydream. Also, the film industry, for example, in the 1930s, when Saturn was in Pisces, they started doing films with talkies. And also, I believe color films became more common. And in particular, the first animated film by Disney, Snow White, came out in this time period. And this is also closely linked to in the 1990s when Saturn was in Pisces, and the Pixar animation films started with Toy Story. Another way this has crystallized is in musical distribution. I see again in the 1930s, there was the development of electric hi-fi kind of record systems, which obviously is a very crystallized kind of way of recording, the very Piscean form of music for emotional, feeling-based distribution of these things. And this was also relevant in the 1990s with the development of MP3, MP3s, and I'm not sure if iPods were yet there, but definitely music on MP3s. And this was connected to the development of Microsoft Windows in the mid-90s, and of course the internet. So I should say as well, this there was a strong pattern of societal support and structures for manifesting our ideal life and freeing ourselves of external control. I think here, in terms of freeing ourselves of structures such as Alcoholics Anonymous, started in 1935, help people free themselves of external control of various lower frequency demonic entities through alcohol. There's also the self-help industry. Had a series of some books published in the mid-30s by Napoleon Hill, Dale Carnegie, like Think and Grow Rich. And this really crystallized the kind of developments in manifestation, as it's now termed. The other key book there being How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, in the 1990s, there was, I would say, books that specifically I could think about that help to anchor structures of developing mystical skills and awareness, such as the publication of books about out-of-body experiences by William Bullman and Robert Peterson from the Monroe Institute. Also, I think of the Conversations with God books by Neil Donald Walsh that brought out perhaps a more resonant and high frequency understanding of formerly religious kind of based ideas. Saturn was also in Pisces in the mid 1960s, which we can see as certainly there was an attempt to focus on, in the UK and the USA at least, mystical ideas from India, such as meditation and popularizing transcendental meditation at that point as well. And in the 1930s, again, we see Edgar Cayce forming an institute to promote kind of his psychic abilities and things that other people could use in that area, which are all kind of very Saturn in Pisces themes. And now here in the 2020s, with Saturn just having gone into Pisces again this year, you can see people like there's Anelia Benz promoting structures for manifestation and developing mystical abilities. You can see in the political world, there's attempts for people to free themselves of external control in the 1960s with the civil rights movement. Well, Saturn was in Pisces. And also in the mid-90s with Nelson Mandela literally breaking free of prison, getting out of prison to become president in South Africa. Yeah, as I say, these are some of the things I looked at when Saturn was in Pisces, and different kind of forms of dream weaving and structured kind of means of producing feelings were produced, and really kind of got anchored. Novels, Impressionist art, Victorian realism with plays by people like Ibsen, electric record players, talkies, pop music, Pixar animation, Avatar, and increased worlds. Another thing about Saturn in Pisces is very much about explorations of reality. Pisces is the sign of the oceans, and in the 1930s, the development of scuba diving equipment for freer kind of exploration in the seas and the oceans. Jacques Cousteau, major figure here, popularizing the exploration of the oceans through TV shows in the 1960s in particular. And then looking at the universe, we had Einstein putting out theories of relativity and particle theory of light, particularly in 1905, in that period when Saturn was also in Pisces. As I say, anchoring structures of mystical awareness in the mid-90s as well. Some things that I noticed that are definitely I would not agree with when Saturn has been in Pisces has been such things as setting up idols, false idols, hero figures, personality cults, which is, as I say, Albert Einstein, the Beatles, obviously, in the 1960s. They're kind of mass, almost advertisement for drugs in a lot of forms. Martin Luther King, who literally set up a dream, but at the same time, it's never a good idea to put our give our power away to external authorities. And in the 1930s, it was blatantly Hitler and Stalin, Stalin setting up his kind of fake show trials, which is something in Saturn in Pisces is worth paying attention to, particularly in terms of cancel culture. Other things worth looking at in the UK was like dissolution of societal structures, like the Chinese Cultural Revolution, which was obviously very damaging. And I would think a key part of the kind of current totalitarian control in China. Simultaneously, the British had their own cultural revolution, dismantling the grammar school system and weakening the laws and the law enforcement in areas such as gambling, drug laws, pornography, and the police force. So it's very much a dissolution of these systems. And while Saturn has been in Pisces, the development of fake medical systems, such as in 1906, the vaccine for tuberculosis, and now we see the current fake vaccination program. So I was looking again, as I say, at the past Saturn in Pisces dates. This is mid-90s, mid-60s, mid-30s, and start of the 20th century. So classically, Saturn in Pisces is the professional artist, the person who really solidifies feelings and dreams in paintings, great pieces of music, write novels, and these days in the virtual world of Second Life, which I really recommend people go to a city called Arwen City on Second Life, where there's an AstroLee store. Now, Saturn is extremely helpful for helping the ephemeral daydreaming Pisces to have great business acumen and really keen on the fishers, the Piscean fishers, developing a regular structure, routine of hard work, producing actual tangible achievements. And these days with Saturn in Pisces, another key theme is the a regular mystical or daily practice meditation as well while this time period is going on, because there's extremely deep waters in the oceans of Pisces, and lots of things can come up, kind of great, kind of amazing, kind of wisdom, possibly less pleasant kind of programs and memories of things that drifted to the bottom of the ocean a long time ago and that we hadn't really explored. Saturn is also the Lord of Time, the Lord of Structure. As the Lord of Time, not really in any kind of place to explore the kind of the transcendental, non-linear world of Pisces. So time can suddenly seem to not matter at all. Things can happen instantly, or it seems like things take forever. But the Lord of Time, Saturn, still proceeds and does everything in his power, even though Pisces is, clearly there stating that, well, this will last for so long, but everything in the end will dissolve into the shimmering waters of the ocean. Boundaries are not really an area of strength for Pisceans in general. But with Saturn in Pisces, the fish can really start to see how it might be a good idea just to kind of perhaps at least filter the people around, or filter the ideas that the fishes explore. While Saturn is also encouraging Pisces to focus on a goal, and even goals that might take a while to manifest. But with Saturn's help, Pisces will really make some progress. As I was saying about the world of Piscean stories, fantastical stories, we see, for example, the Dune series of novels, first published in 1965, I believe, when Saturn was first in Pisces. And now we see a kind of huge IMAX version of the film of the first book, or the first two books, I think, being produced. Also in the mid-90s, the Harry Potter series was becoming extremely well promoted, extremely big business. Although if I were you, I would be very careful about some of the themes in Harry Potter, as it's I'm not sure it's all that high frequency, to be honest with you. But there's also the Lord of the Rings films were being refocused on in that time period as well. Although it has to be said that the first film, The Lord of the Rings, came out 2001, but it took many years for Peter Jackson to develop and the films, after he started off way back in the mid-90s when Saturn was in Pisces. So you can see that Saturn in Pisces is big dreams here. But as in the case of the Lord of the Rings films, in that case it took, I would say, from looking at the information on Wikipedia, at least 6 years of pushing and pushing and pushing from the time that Saturn was in Pisces to actually make it a reality. We can even look at the first book that J.R.R. Tolkien published in this fantasy world, The Hobbit, which was published in 1937, right after Saturn had been at Pisces. So clearly it had been written during that period. Another Saturn in Pisces theme at the beginning of Saturn in Pisces was the production of Picard Series 3, which was the first series, as far as I could see, in Picard, which was actually enjoyable. And, you know, in the same universe as the Star Trek Next Generation films and TV series. Now, with Star Trek Next Generation, we can see that Picard was Star Trek Next Generation, I mean, was filmed the mid-80s, I think 87 to 94. But it was only when Saturn went into Pisces in 1994 that the Star Trek Next Generation team got into the big time in their first film, Generations. So it's interesting to see. I mean, of course, in the mid-60s, there was the original Star Trek series with William Shatner as well. The original Star Trek series began broadcasting in 1966, right in the middle of Saturn in Pisces. So again, we'd expect to see further developments in the Star Trek universe, which of course is about, you know, some very very scientific, very practical kind of crew exploring space, which is in some ways quite a good metaphor for Saturn in Pisces, where it's a very businesslike, professional crew of people exploring the entire universe. Yeah, it's quite helpful. I mean, of course, there was Doctor Who was also in the UK really getting going in the original Saturn in the 1960s, Saturn in Pisces. And there again, we see an older, much older, kind of more Saturnian figure. Saturn is typically like old Father Time figure. So we got an older actor, David Tennant, coming back to play the Doctor in the midst of the kind of confusion of the modern incarnation, the modern iteration of Doctor Who, I should say. But it's a very similar kind of thing to the old man, old Father Time, Patrick Stewart returning to Star Trek. In some ways, you might wonder how this will play out in Star Wars over the next 3 years. I mean, it seems to me, in my opinion, that Star Wars is much like Doctor Who actually is, and Star Trek in many ways has fundamentally taken a wrong turn into ideology and dogmatic views of reality. But, you know, these things can definitely dissolve while Saturn is in Pisces. And it might well be that Luke Skywalker might, you know, be portrayed on TV and in film in a more resonant manner in the next few years than he has been. As I say, another key Saturn in Pisces theme is the mystical arena, crystal cave I reside in at the moment. And yeah, it's interesting. It would be interesting to see how there are developments in this area. I mean, particularly resonant areas suggested might be exploring dreams, astral travel, exploring lucid dreams on a regular basis, mystical businesses, helping people who are interested to develop these skills, for example, perhaps developing more accurate empirical data about mystical insights and energy fields, looking at things, themes such as the more mystical abilities of the physical body, such as taking a more dedicated approach to developing such skills or reaccessing skills such as telekinesis, even teleportation, mediumship, and perhaps a more general appreciation of the non-physical nature of certainly of energy field and the physical body and environment around ourselves. But just getting back to films for a second, I should also mention this is Piscean films are all helpful for epic movies, such as Lawrence of Arabia in the 1960s, Dr. Zhivago, epic kind of fantasy films as well. Also, as I said, is Titanic, films like that. The development of IMAX and more of a kind of 3D experience in cinemas, you would kind of think might be coming more rapidly in the next few years. Also, then in the 1960s, there was the spy fantasies of James Bond, and perhaps a lower frequency the Hammer horror films, more present. Now, I should also mention Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011 and is there, for another few years to till 2026, going in and out of Aries a little bit then. So Neptune is the ruler of Pisces, so it's a very artistic, very mystical. This is a highly unusual astrological period of very strong for artistic productions, mystical insights, everything Piscean. And just as Neptune is finishing off his like about 15-year journey through Pisces, Saturn is there, as I say, from now until 2026 to help, really solidify a lot of the things that have been worked on and focused on since 2011 in our kind of mystical and artistic world. Saturn is very persistent and, will find a way, even as in the case of the Lord of the Rings films, if it takes 7 years to even make the first film, or 6 or 5 years, or however long it was, and, will lead to massive changes in a view of what is possible. Even so, Pisces is, very ephemeral, as I say, and things that we build may not seem to be there. They might seem to disappear in front of our eyes. It might take an extremely long period of concentrating on our dreams and manifesting them to make them happen. But, just keep building anyway. And trying, in this phase, it's important to develop a kind of non-attachment to what actually happens. Go in, do everything you can, whatever happens, it kind of happens. It's fine. It might produce an amazing work of art and have no way knowing anyone will enjoy it, even notice it was done. It's fine. Build it anyway. Just throw it out there. Not being particularly attached to the effect or the impact of what we build with Sun in Pisces is helpful. Pisces, of course, is the final sign of the zodiac. And in the next 3 years in particular, before Saturn and Neptune go into Aries, whole paradigms can end. The whole split in the light, dark, even dark, very much indicates this is a key period of this materializing, this solidifying kind of here's the light paradigm people, here's the light dark paradigm people. The split very much indicated to become solidified and in this period. The impact might go on for a while. Neptune has been in his current cycle from Aries to Pisces, for about what, like well over a century, well, like 160 years. So this is a long phase of this current dream, Neptune's wise. And in 2026, a whole new dream astrologically starts when Neptune goes into Aries, as I said. Therefore, managing our emotions, remaining grounded in the present moment and current reality is imperative. Saturn in Pisces says to steadily keep swimming through this, sometimes quite turbulent section of the ocean. As I mentioned with Jacques Cousteau and scuba diving and all these explorations of the oceans of Earth, you predict there would be key developments in this area over the next few years. Yeah, perhaps the hidden depths of the oceans become more clear. I think it's the case that the scientists officially know less about the bottom of the sea and the oceans than they do about the surface of the moon. This, I would predict, is going to change in the next few years. Pisces is also the sign of retreat and spiritual retreat from the confusion of the world. Whole reality is splitting in different directions as we release elements, and in order for the new cycle astrologically to that we'll be looking forward to. And for Saturn, the lot of structure, time, reality. Seeing all these things dissolve around him in the ocean of Pisces can be quite a challenge. Important for him to develop a certain sense of connection with the unseen world of our kind of guides, our experience in, say, alternative timelines or alternative Earths, connecting to, say, our non-physical elements of ourselves, such as elves and dragons and various entities that are keeping these of a high frequency nature is important. But in learning to work with these friends, entities, helpful kind of allies, Saturn is able to achieve far more than he could if he was just on his own. So paradoxically, he'll be able to do less and achieve more through all of this, these insights that he gains while in Pisces. Potentially, Saturn in Pisces can be the great mystical teacher as well, who's we have the opportunity to diligently work on raising our frequency and manifest things day after day after day. And our shining example using these energies of Saturn in Pisces can be inspirational for others to raise their own frequency and see their possibility in our reality. With Saturn in Pisces, the extreme levels of sensitivity of Pisces, typically the empathic nature of fish, is well known. So being careful to look after our own energies and not kind of take on other people's issues is extremely helpful. One way which is particularly relevant for Pisceans and Saturn in Pisces is developing structures around sleep, such as staying away from highly stimulating kind of forms of media and structured daydreams in films and TV. They're not helpful. And yeah, making sure, I mean, just before going to sleep. And also such elements as looking at electromagnetic frequencies and perhaps at least forming a canopy when sleeping, and forming a whole carefully maintained structure while asleep will be helpful with Saturn in Pisces. And as we saw with the various forms of art that are shown in Saturn in Pisces, such as Star Trek, Lord of the Rings, Dune, stories of people achieving and manifesting great things on an epic scale against quite surprisingly large odds, and facing all kinds of unexpected obstacles, are a theme here of books and TV programs and films in the Saturn in Pisces type energies. And as we saw with the producers of these kind of forms of art, long, steady, painstaking progress, quietly working hard on these manifestations is a feature of Saturn in Pisces. There don't seem to be that many major astrological aspects from Saturn in Pisces. The main one that I found was Saturn sextile Uranus in Taurus. And this is in 2025, 2026, 1st of April, 2025, and 20th of January, 2026. I mean, this appears to me largely about Saturn in Pisces helping the kind of the radical shifts of Uranus and Taurus to conservative and fixed elements of society and the world just become a little bit easier, just making it a little bit easier to see the bigger picture behind sudden radical shifts and things like finances and cryptocurrency, perhaps, or the land ownership of various people around the world. So the main area that Saturn is working on after helping Uranus with that kind of land ownership and awareness of finances and use of new forms of making income with Saturn and Pisces working together with Uranus and Taurus. The main thing we're working towards is the Saturn Neptune conjunction in 2026, which will be a whole new cycle that we'll be focusing on after this long Piscean cycle of Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces concludes at that point. Also, as we've seen with the political changes and the so-called examples of democratic freedom in the past with Nelson Mandela and Martin Luther King and these kind of things, and also the deceptive nature of Stalin's show trials in the 1930s and Hitler's rise to apparent power in the same period. There's a strong indications in Saturn in Pisces the illusory nature of all these democratic systems become more and more visible, and to be collectively decision taken to abandon all of these systems and choose something more resonant. It'd be interesting to see what kind of systems they will be, but definitely during this period of Saturn in Pisces, a new kind of collective systems of say self-governance the seeds can be sown astrologically for sure in this period to develop in the years ahead beyond that. And the true nature of vaccination programs, as we've seen with the Saturn in Pisces, starting with the tuberculosis vaccine in 1906, and even before that with German virus theory. Looks like this will become more and more visible, as I say, and it looks as though they'd be similar to the Alcoholics Anonymous group starting in 1935. International organizations and national organizations looking to support people who have been damaged by injections, particularly in the last few years, being set up over the next over the period of Saturn in Pisces. Similarly, the whole nature of education, which at least in the UK seems to represent some kind of propaganda indoctrination scheme. This seems to be something that will be closely looked at in Saturn in Pisces and dissolved for new forms of passing on of knowledge, wisdom, and skills in the years ahead. At a mass level, paying attention to the dreams that we've been invited to live and feel and believe in, being very careful with those things over the next few years is strongly stated. As I say, the nature of hero worship at a national level seems to be a Saturn in Pisces area, which we can be aware of, which, obviously with Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Martin Luther King, the Beatles, all these types of figures. And just being aware of that and not participating in these kind of personality cults is a key area. In terms of technological daydreams, it seems to me that the virtual worlds, as I say, of Second Life and avatars, even the avatars of old and even deceased musicians, where ABBA put in their younger kind of avatar version to produce a concert, and even John Lennon has managed to get back into the charts this year, despite being dead for like 40 odd years, or perhaps he faked his own death, I don't know. But these kind of things look to be a growing area in Saturn in Pisces, and it seems to me that there is growing movement of homemade use of AI to produce digital images, voice production of different people by recording people's voices. It seems this is something that's happening on YouTube. So a great amount of homemade digital art using audio and visual elements would seem to be a kind of key kind of area of new forms of art being developed in this Saturn in Pisces period, and new forms of distribution. I mean, another thing is Amazon was actually founded in 1994 in Saturn in Pisces, period. Saturn is obviously extremely discerning as well, so a great number of well-read or highly well-known mystical figures also be seen more clearly and being checked out, and many kind of, as I say, false idols may emerge, but more resonant and high frequency figures will be ever more visible and highly regarded while they stay in integrity. And that's about it. I think this has been quite a long video, but I wanted to make a clear and comprehensive video based on and podcast, and I'll make a blog at some point about Saturn in Pisces that can be referred to over these 3 years. So anyway, if you've listened this long, well, thanks very much. And yeah, I hope you found something beneficial. And if you didn't, just discard whatever it is that wasn't helpful. Thanks for your time. Oh, I'll check out, if you haven't already, my website, as I say, linked to below, a Telegram channel, and I will particularly recommend going on Second Life to link to the Arwen city there, which is extremely interesting co-creation, nice feeling kind of based environment for showing how a structure and how kind of daydream Pisces and the structure of Saturn can combine together in a resonant manner, and hopefully inspiring to many people. Bye bye.